Hi, this is Calvin Cox. This is a video. Let me see here. Let me see. It's 3:44 p.m. Saturday, July 5th. The year is 2014. And I'm doing a recording in the woods. And what it's about on the Washington Post had an article about the Declaration of Independence and freedom and maintaining that freedom, and basically what I have concluded is that it has taken a long time since the Declaration of Independence. It took, I believe, roughly 90 years for the Civil War in the United States of America to free the slaves, and the slaves were only freed on paper, and that was called the Emancipation Proclamation. Then from the time the slaves were freed, it took basically another 100 years for the President of the United States to sign the Civil Rights document, and then that from being from the 1960s, when Johnson signed that document, it has been another roughly 50 years till blacks in this country have actually, I believe, gotten into a position where they're doing real good. Now, the next question is, when will people, or what will be the next level of achievement for the rights of people in general? I believe that achievement will be when young children of all ages have to attend playgroup, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and up through perhaps 8th or 9th grade be required by law to break down barriers of privilege. And that, so therefore, poor and rich children will have to be forced to attend school together, and hopefully that thereby they'll become friends and develop relationships that will help to break down social barriers. After the accomplishment of breaking down social barriers, I feel the next two things that will have to then be overcome, and well, one of the barriers will constantly have to be overcome is what I call the new, always seems to be new leaders popping up that always want to take over everything and enslave people however they can, either by force, using guns and saying that, okay, you're under my control, and that from now on you'll do what I say no matter what. And that apparently is always happening around the world, 365 days a year, 24/7. And that is the one single major thing that mankind will always be battling, no matter what, is the new tyrants that always arise, okay? And another thing that goes along with the new tyrants seems to be the new thieves, which once they get into political office in whatever country they're in and make connections with the less desirable and the more dishonest people within those countries, a lot of these people who get into office, at first they seem to be honest and sincere and everything, and eventually they turn around to be nothing but thieves who manage to drain the country of every last cent they have they leave the poor worse off than they were when they first came in. And these people are essentially tyrannical. They're thieves. They favor them and their little group. They rip off the country, and when they finally leave office, the money has been stolen and diverted to who knows where, bank accounts, wherever that can't be traced, whatever. They bought some property in some other country or investment somewhere. They've essentially ripped off the whole infrastructure, the whole country, just because of their greed, and everybody's left in a big mess. And this seems to occur all the time around the whole world. That's the one single biggest thing that humanity as a whole will constantly battle for the remainder till God returns. If you believe in God, I do, till God comes back, Jesus Christ. In the clouds of heaven, that problem will always remain. The other problem that is very big, like I said, was breaking down the social barriers. After the social barriers are kind of pushed to the background, kids go to school together, they become friends, a lot of these social tensions are eased, which are basically unnecessary in the first place. People just want to live, basically go to work, earn their keep, and survive, and seek their own happiness. So once the social barrier goes down, then the two things remain. The one I was talking about, the tyrants who like to take over and steal all the money. And the other one is financial equality, and making sure that the poor at least have enough to put a roof over their head. It doesn't have to be fancy, and that their pay be kept in line in a fair manner, so they can make a living. It won't be fancy, but of course it won't be where the cost of living, government and state government, federal government, and all these other people get these costs of living increases every year, and the minimum wage workers never get that. So the day that the minimum wage is raised a wee bit, and then it's locked in step with inflation, then the day that occurs, people will have a chance at continuing to survive without beating themselves to death, just trying to keep a roof over their head and a little bit of food. You know, there is such a thing called motivation, and there is such a thing called fairness, and it's not fair that the rich have managed to earn 18 to 25% increase in their earnings per year, and we're talking millionaires and stuff like that, when the minimum wage workers have not even had a pay increase of any sort in like forever. And a lot of these minimum wage workers, they go to work and they work hard, and they never see any kind of pay raises or increases of any sort, and I don't really think that's fair. So, you know, pay equality and stabilization towards the minimum wage level would do a great deal to assist social, financial equality. And then from that point, the other one being these new leaders around the world who always get into office and rip off the whole country. There are many of them I could name. I'm not going to. All anyone has to do is read the newspaper to see it. One of the biggest problems faced in the United States of America right now is the influx of immigrants crossing the border coming from Central American countries. And because apparently when I've talked to some people and have found out that those countries are so difficult to live in because of gangs, and the government are hand in hand in some cases, and the gangs extort money from whatever sources they can, and they give it to the government leaders. And in a situation like that, I don't think it's livable for anybody. In some of those countries, at 8 o'clock at night, you better be in your home with the door locked, or there's a good chance you'll be killed on the street by gangs. in this country, United States of America, it's difficult to believe that perhaps that could be the case in some of these third world countries, or I don't even have to say third world, but just, you know, some Central American countries, that they could be that dangerous. But I believe in fact they could be. And so in the long term, the conversation needs to become among those people who come to this country, how do we create a strong enough base of us people and go back to our country and take it back, because it is our country, and no gang or no crooked political leader has the right to take my country from me. Okay, that's the way I feel about the United States of America. It's my country. I was born here. People from El Salvador and other Central American countries who, unfortunately, their governments have become so corrupt. Somewhere down the road in the future, those people here in the United States are going to need to gather their resources, their strength, and go back to those countries and take their countries back by force, if necessary, because the reason is it's their country. Nobody should have to put up with their country being ripped off from them in such a forceful, dishonest, and useless and abusive way. Okay, those Central American countries, those common people who are in that country deserve to have a country that they can vote, their vote means something, and that political leaders are held accountable for their actions, and things need to be organized and structured in such a way that financially those leaders cannot rip off the general public without the general public knowing about it, or having a way to access the information to find out who the crooks are in real time. Okay, that means a different type of governmental structure, and so that would be something that needs to be explored by people from those countries who are in the United States now. They need to explore methods and ways that they would actually implement themselves if they were to go back to their country and try and take their country back from the crooks, the crooked politicians, and from the gangs. And for them, that is where their true happiness, satisfaction, and freedom will come in, when they can go back to their country and claim back what is theirs. And it is theirs, and they have a right to be there, exist, live, and be happy, just like people in the United States seek to do. The thing that scares me, it seems to be that within the United States of America, the rich and the elite and the political class is becoming so big, and it seems to be so far removed from the common man in any way, in many ways, that, you know, I myself, who work for near minimum wage, I shake my head sometimes and say, where's my country? What's happened to it? It's like, you know, back in the 70s when I was in high school, I felt really that my government listened, and, you know, my vote really counted. Now that I'm older, I'm like, well, I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel that the government really works for me. I feel it works for itself and its own perception of what its own reality is, and its perception of serving the common man, the middle class, and the wealthy as a whole. I believe that somehow that perception of government itself has gone by the wayside. You know, that's just my perception. I want to make that very clear. But when I cannot vote on things like the inter-county connector, which I did not want, and I'm sure tons of other people didn't want, why do I want to pay for a rich man's toll highway? Okay, I don't want to pay for that. That should have been obvious. Why wasn't I given a choice? Okay, that's my basic argument. When things like that occur, which are occurring all the time, how is it the Montgomery County Council was able to vote themselves a $17,000 pay increase without any of the citizens voting on whether they could do that or not? That's two perfect examples of where fairness has taken a back seat. Anyway, thank you very much. The 4th of July was very enjoyable this year. My friends Kathy and Alan took me over to watch fireworks, and it was just a wonderful time. The fireworks were beautiful. I pray to God the United States of America will continue to remain strong and focused, and that the United States of America can continue to bless other countries around the world by helping to instill our ideals of choice, of freedom, and of hopefully a better life for everyone. That's not an easy thing to do, because you're always dealing with people in power who actually are very greedy and only want what they want. Thank you, and have a wonderful summer.